I probably won't do anything with it, but just in case there's something we want to use. And actually, this overview, what I want to do was for the Radical Empathy California Assembly District 15 candidate town hall, is I created a Google website, which is, easy to create, and it's just for organizing material. So I'm going to do a screen share, and hopefully this is going to come up. Are you able to see this?
Yep.
Okay, so this is, the home page, Radical Empathy, the town hall is here. This is actually a screenshot from an existing, there was a forum done a month or two ago where they had the candidates. So these are actually all the candidates. There's 9 candidates. And I posed here the problem, where communities in the country are beset by dangerous and growing divisions of race, personalities, and politics. Mm-hmm. And so we have the question of how do we overcome divisions in our community and country and bring people together? And here's some links to the Google Doc, shared Google Doc, which you all had actually opened. There's a link to the Facebook event page, for this group. And then we have a Google group as well. And this is the district that we're in. Let me kind of open that up a little bit more. Is District 15, and I think we're all living actually in this district. It's all the way down from Piedmont through Berkeley to San Pablo and Richmond, El Cerrito, and this whole area. So this is actually the district that we're talking about. And right now, Tony Thurman is Assembly District member for this district, and he's leaving his position, so this becomes available. So I put down at the bottom of the page a little bit of the context, that we're working under. And the first is a comment by George Lakoff, where he talks about the importance of empathy. That's the foundation of government by the people. And there's some quotes you can see, as well as he's making the case that progressive thought rests on the value of empathy. And so he's given sort of a philosophical framework for the work that we're doing. Then, kind of in a more grounded way, we have Hillary Clinton, that since her book came out, she started talking about radical empathy. So I think this is really good for what we want to do. She's kind of making the case that, hey, we need empathy, and not only just regular empathy, we need radical empathy. Yeah, right. I like that. So reaction there, Bill. So she says, I'm coming around to the idea that what we need more than anything at this moment in America is what you might call radical empathy. And then she goes into talking about radical empathy. And, radical empathy is overcoming divisions, which is what we're talking about. But she's even going deeper, is that there's sort of a void of meaning within the country, right? It's like, if everything is self-interest, everything is just greed. There's just sort of an emptiness within society. And it's this empathy of connecting and, kind of community building, I think, is what she's talking about, be it in communities and families, in ourselves individually. And then she kind of says empathy should be, central to our lives, our families. And then this is the quote that I really like, is she says, I know that we don't always think of politics as empathy going hand in hand, but they do, and more than that, they must. So I think she's really jumping onto the bandwagon of, empathy as a social value and political value. And the problem is most of the politicians, they don't know how to make it real. They don't have the tools, and that's something we have to offer. A curriculum, we've got a curriculum. We've got this town hall to make it real. And, we've got the empathy circles and the empathy tents. So we have the practical, tools for making it real. And we have Barack Obama, he talked extensively about, this empathy deficit. Over and over again, as he was running for office and in the presidency, he said that the biggest deficit we have in society is an empathy deficit, and that peace starts with empathizing, and it's up to us to make that happen. So that's the home page, just to kind of set the stage for this project. Then on the sidebar, and each of you I can add you to the permissions to be able to edit. And it's pretty easy to edit. All you do is, click this edit button here, and it allows you to edit a page, like that. And then you just save it. Or you click this button here to create a new page, and then you edit it. So I can just add you all to the permissions if you want to be able to edit and add stuff. So here we've got a to-do list, which Will, you were talking about, what are the details? So we can start fleshing out the details. One is to get clear on what is it we're doing, who's our team. That we need to set the town hall dates, so date, time, length of time, location. So we've got all that stuff to figure out. We've got people to check with for insights. So I'm trying to put it together a list of people that I know are sort of in the political realm to give us a picture of the political players. Who are the organizations? What are the locations for this? And Al Miller, someone I know from the Democratic Club, I met him at the party the other night, and he was pretty helpful, so I want to follow up with him. Mr. Phillips, he's also in the El Cerrito Democratic Club, and he actually produced another town hall, like that town hall a couple of months ago. So he's been through this whole process. Igor and Marcos, these are just some other people. So if you know of anyone, that we should follow up with, we can just add them to the list. We need a bigger team, to reach out to get more of a team to put this together. So we do have a team page, and so these are just tasks we need to do. We need to find some sponsors. So right now it's the Empathy Tent team and the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and OFA Contra Costa with Kook, who is the main organizer there. So she's agreed to be a partner, and so we need to find other partners. We need to get buy-in from the different candidates. So there's 9 candidates. I've talked to 2 of them personally at the party. And Julie, who was in the last meeting, she actually reached out to 1 and got their buy-in. So we actually have 3 candidates out of the 9. And I just sent Kook an email, and she connected me with another candidate with their campaign manager, and that was for Buffy Wicks. So so that's we need to contact the other ones, and Will, you're starting to put together a template to reach out to them, so we can you can follow up on the other ones and reach out. We need to get publicity. So how do we get it out to a town hall? How do we get it out to the community? We need to get it out on Facebook, on emails. The candidates can get it out. The sponsors can help get it out. We have media. We need to have someone to do media organizing, write up a press release to get it in the hands of the different magazines, Berkeley side, etc. The local papers. Going to need video recording. So we need to post, we record and if you want to say anything, just interrupt me if you have any questions or comments as we go along. So we have the video recording. We will have to do that and then upload it to YouTube and Facebook. At the event, we have audio, video needs, chairs, tables, all that kind of detail. Mm-hmm. There's the other town hall that, which are other town halls are similar? Yeah, did somebody say something?
Sorry, I was just, I didn't realize my microphone was out. I was just saying that's the one that Mr. Phillips did.
Yeah, exactly. So That was done through the African American Caucus of the Democratic Party, so they were sponsors. I actually talked to Mr. Phillips at the El Cerrito Democratic Party, got his contact info. He kind of connected, told me about a couple of resources, but I want to see about, maybe we could even meet with him, on Skype or something to kind of pick his brains to go through, his experience. And there's an article, a video, event photos, and flyer from the event. And it's on another page, which I'll show you. And I did ask the candidates, I said, well, what do you think about this event? And he's not a candidate, but he's on the school board, the local school board. And he didn't think it would be, he sees it more as a competition, with the candidates. He said as a candidate, he wouldn't be interested. He didn't think it would be that beneficial for him. And then another candidate said something similar. And then another candidate thought it was like the greatest thing. Said, this is really great. I'm a really good listener and I can really show my skills, So, different candidates have different viewpoints. It's good to just kind of get a sense of what their viewpoints are. Joan?
I just want to interrupt. The two candidates kind of negative about it were males, and the one that wanted to do the listening was a female.
Right. So that tells you something. What?
I said duly noted.
Duly noted.
Yeah, my suggestion was to have them actually listen to the audience, to the voters.
Uh-huh.
And they might start to see some benefit in that. If they could listen to the voters and be seen on video as being receptive and listening well, that would give them something.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah.
And I also think that this could be sold to some candidates that I guess would prefer a more adversarial tone or whatever, as a way to create a more solid voting block for whoever wins the primary. I mean, I assume that going into in the primary, that their presumption is that they will win the primary. Well, if they win the primary, I assume they want to win the election. And we could be selling this as a way to guarantee to better guarantee that the winner of the primary wins. I mean, maybe that should be communicated a slightly different way. I don't know. I just wonder, do you think that maybe the ones that reacted negatively were under the impression that like this was a thing where we try to get people to agree with each other as opposed to just trying to change how they engage with each other?
This is pretty new, so I think they're not quite familiar. So the more we can familiarize with them with it, or even have like an introductory video, which we want to work on how to do this. So the more information we can, create to introduce them to it, that I think to draw them into and understand the process and start seeing the benefits. So there was one of the candidates who's actually a council member on the Oakland City Council. He was saying he saw the benefit in terms of after the election, like you're saying, that
Right.
kind of bringing people together. And he really thought it was a good idea for the assembly members in the assembly to be doing this. So he really saw a benefit of that. So this is a way for us, I think, to get a foot in the door with, empathy building skills. And so these are all kind of things to jot down and, as kind of issues and different ideas and build on. So I keep going down the list of all the different pages. So we have a candidates page. And so Ben Bartlett, who is the person Julie knows, and she, had emailed him and connected us with his assistant as well, and he was interested. Then Caleb, he's the Oakland City Council member. He was the one that felt that the process was not so good for candidates, and I wasn't really clear. That's part of what we need to do, is get really clear and articulate why or why not. But that was exactly what we were talking about, the post-election healing divisions. as well as, for assembly members to talk to each other. But I personally think we need empathy from the get-go. So, and then this was Rochelle. She's a city council member here in El Cerrito, and she was the one that was totally gung-ho on listening, and she was totally present, just a really great listener as well as being a nurse too. And then there was Buffy Wicks. So she's Oakland resident, and she had worked on the Obama campaign. It was really early in the Obama campaign, ended up in Washington, with Obama. She seems to have a lot of momentum and a lot of money in her campaign. I saw that she had raised $200,000 already, for her campaign. That's who I Cook had connected me to. So I have an email to her campaign manager, Amelia. I think I CC'd you too, right, Will?
Yeah.
On that, so you're
I got
on that. Okay, so we're waiting to hear from her, and I think that she would be a really great contact, because I made the point that that if she knows Obama, she worked pretty intimately there with Obama, she would know that his message was about empathy. Right, and so that's I hope will resonate with her, and we can build on that. And then there was the other candidates that we need to contact. There's links to their Facebook pages and websites and stuff, so we need to go through and track down their emails and send them that that inquiry that you're talking about, that you're working on.
Yep.
So here was co-sponsors. Who can we get to sponsor this? So we got, the confirmed sponsors. There's the El Cerrito Democratic Club. I asked the president, about sponsoring, what it was involved. And he said, you got to come to the meeting and then just make a proposal in the January meeting. And they will also be doing, I think maybe in February with the candidates, an endorsement. So the candidates come, give, a spiel, I believe, and then the club will give an endorsement. So not quite sure. So there's some kind of overlap. I'm not quite sure how all that runs, but
they always do it at the El Cerrito High School.
And you went to one, right? So the candidates were there, Joan?
I went to a couple of them. I usually try to go.
And the candidates are there too?
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's what it's about, and it has a really good turnout. They have it in the cafeteria.
Oh, cool. So I'm hoping we can get them on board, because that then we need some sponsors, and especially people who are in the political field that can that know the landscape better, because I don't know who all the players are, the organizations, etc. So this was just some, if you have any organizations, you can just add them here, and we can start going down and doing a checklist.
Can I ask, just in order for a second?
Yeah.
You said that was El Cerrito Democratic Club that does the endorsement. That's what we're talking about?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm wondering, maybe if they were to sponsor an event like this, that we would probably have to do it before they sponsor a candidate then, or before they endorse a candidate.
Yeah, they said the person I talked to wasn't sure how it was going to work, because he said a couple of the El Cerrito Club members were candidates, and they were concerned about endorsement. So it seemed to be a little up in the air, like what was really going to happen. So I don't know if even if they endorse someone, we can still do a town hall after or before. There's no real reason doing it before or after.
Rochelle is definitely a member, and I'm sure they would endorse her. Yeah.
That's true. And I believe Andy isn't Andy as well. Andy Katz, I think his name is. He's one of the candidates. He's also a member of Indivisible.
Oh, do you know him?
Yeah, I have his contact information.
Oh, great. He sits on the board of East Bay Municipal District. Okay, cool.
When you say Indivisible East Bay, is that the one we went to in Oakland?
Yeah, and they also have a branch that meets right here in El Cerrito. So,
It's so small, though. That's the Richmond one, right?
yeah.
It's very tiny, but yeah.
Well, it's just whoever we can get. The more names we get to the list, the better. And Indivisible Berkeley said they wanted to stay out of any kind of
Endorsement.
and endorsement, not just endorsements, but candidate forums that
Right.
they're trying to focus. So that's something to think about too. I don't know, maybe Indivisible East Bay is different, or
It is different because when we went there that day, they had, remember, a couple
oh
candidates
yeah,
from red districts, and they were endorsing them, and they were signing petitions for
Also,
yes, yeah.
different, yeah.
IB is the way that their corporate structure is set up. They have to be super careful about that type of stuff.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. What was that?
The way that Indivisible Berkeley is like structured, the nonprofit that they're set up as,
Right.
they have to be kind of careful about it. But I don't think that that's the case with other indivisible groups.
Yeah.
So Indivisible East Bay may be more receptive.
Yeah.
Is my guess.
Yeah, that's great. I just saw this Oakland Peace Center. There's a whole list of their partners too. If we could get one of these organizations to partner with as well. For example, let me just open this up. So they have like they're like an association of peace organizations. And if we could contact them, like they have everything like, Ella Baker Center, First Church of Oakland, there's a whole bunch. If we could connect with them and get them to be sponsors, because we're kind of in that same vein of peace and, getting people to work together, that, it's kind of the sky's the limit who we can get to partner with. The other forum that Mr. Phillips did, this is a list of sponsors that they had. They had the African American Caucus of the Democratic Party in California. They had Contra Costa College is where they held, and that's near Hilltop, and that's where they held their meeting. They had the United Teachers of Richmond. I'm not sure what that is, WOPA. Then they had the El Cerrito Democratic Club and the Post News Group. So, we can contact them as well. And, I created a separate page, for each one where we can keep notes. So that's under sponsors. There's just emails, some of the emails, like if you create a form email, we can put it under here, then just for storage, and then you can copy and paste.
Mm-hmm.
I did logistics. Again, this will be the logistics for the event, the location, date, audio. So we'll have a clean page for the actual event.
Mm-hmm.
These are meetings. So these are our meetings that we're holding. And so every time we meet, like if I put the video, I put our video from the meeting. We can kind of keep track notes, in the meetings. There was other forums. So this was the Just here we go.
Yeah.
This was the event. That was October 30th. Is they had the one that Mr. Phillips did. They have a recording of it that they put online, and it's actually 2 hours and 45 minutes. We had talked about time,
Wow.
and they went almost 3 hours for this. And so there's information here about their format, and you can go through and see the video. You can see their flyer.
That just reminds me, though, I said the Indivisible is very small, but remember they put on that rather large town hall meeting out in, where did we go? I can't remember. It's out, remember?
Yeah, that was...
DeSanio was there, and also one of the co-founders of National Indivisible that works in, it wasn't Leah or Ezra, it was somebody else, their partner that actually is in San Francisco. They did get that all together.
And they had a bunch of organizations show up there too with, so
Right.
they do
right.
have those connections. If we can get them on board, they would, they could bring
That's
all their
true.
contacts too.
That's true. I had forgotten about that. That was quite a big event for such a tiny little group.
Yeah, it
really.
doesn't take a lot, it's a lot just of the background organization. And this was the flyer they had for that forum and their sponsors and just the date and time. Yeah, they went from 11 to 2, so 3 hours. Serious. And it looks like people, stayed for that.
Well,
And
theirs also was, wasn't it? The one that Richmond put on. It was several hours. I wonder if that's online somewhere. I don't remember what it was called.
yeah, it was a Renaissance or Resistance Fair, something like that. Or
Okay.
I can't.
We'll have to take a look at it.
Okay, so that was other forums. If we find other events, just kind of general stuff to sort. I don't think there's nothing really there. Trying to get our team, so we have a list of who the team members are, and then kind of things that to do, and these were others from the Big Ideas group. I was going to talk Friday to Igor, because he's a real political player. He's always at all these events. I also thought we could talk to Mr. Phillips. Maybe Will, you and I could have a Skype call or something with him and just kind of pick his brains, something like that.
Sure.
So that's the gist. I think that's the overall gist of stop sharing. That's the
What's the site, Matt?
the URL for the.
Oh. Okay.
It's kind of a long. Let me see. Let me just. I'm gonna put it into. Yeah, it's something to bookmark. I just put it into the chat window.
I just thought of, they have a lot of events at that university in Berkeley for the disabled.
Oh yeah.
What is it?
Ed Brower Center.
No, not Ed Brower. Ed something. Yeah. Does everybody know that one? It's right across from the Ashby Bar, that big school, and it's for the disabled. They've political things that I've attended there, and so disability and empathy. No, the Bauer one is the green building that's downtown Berkeley. No, Ed, I don't. I have to Google it. I can't. Does anybody else know it? Guess not. Okay.
Not familiar with it.
Anyway, they have a nice meetings. They have a lot of space for events, and it seems like a natural fit with disabilities that they might want to sponsor something.
Do you want to check that, John? Would you be willing to just check on availability?
Okay.
Great.
If you just know of the place, like I could just look into it as well. You just want to.
I'm sorry. Well, I can't. Let me turn you up a bit here. What was that?
I was saying that if you knew of the place, that I wouldn't mind looking into that as well.
Okay, great. Let me see. Can I Google while I'm on Zoom? Yeah.
It's right across from the
Ashby Bar.
Ashby Park.
We should know that.
I'm Googling it too.
I think the last part of it is Ed, and it starts with a B, but not Broward.
Oh, David Brower Center.
No, that's not it. That's the green building. No, it's the university. Ed, I want to say Burns, but I don't think that's it either. You know what I'm talking
let's see.
about. We even set up the empathy tent there. Just put University Berkeley for Disability and it should come out. Anything?
No. It's the university, you said?
It's just across the street from the Ashby BART station.
It's a great location. Because you can use public transportation or nothing came up, Edwin?
I can't seem to, all these different things come up. I can't seem to.
Let's see. Maybe just put school for the disabled, but I know it's a university. Berkeley.
I don't think university will get you there. I'm kind of trying
I would
Google Maps.
I would Google, but I think I'm going to lose I don't have a big screen. That's, wish I could think of what it's called. Anything? Well,
I don't. Maybe we should do it later since it's not.
All right. Okay. And
if you look it up.
I'll email it to you, Will.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not having any luck here.
I think it's the David Brower Center, Alston Way. Is that?
Ed Roberts?
No.
Oh.
I know the David Brower Center. Ed Roberts. Yay. Thank you. That's it. Well, I was way off. I kept thinking.
Mm-hmm.
What was?
Okay.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, David Brower is a really nice building in downtown. But this one is a great space.
I'm putting it.
Okay. I'll take a look at it. I got it on my notes here.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just adding it to check. Check Ed Roberts as location. Oh, do you want? Let me just share this with you real quick. I can actually give your permissions. Let me just. Maybe we can do a test here to make sure that you're able to share and access this. So I'll just add and.
No, it still has me. I can only view it right now, Edwin.
I'm just adding you as.
Okay.
And if you refresh the page, I think you might be able to go in there if you want to test it. If you refresh the site, are you able to like hit the? Does it give you this little toolbar?
Yeah, but no, I'm still view only. Maybe let me click on the maybe it needs to redo its. No, it still has me as view only.
Huh. Well, we can.
And I put it in notes on the other doc.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be good if we're able to get everybody to
Yeah.
Let me just double check. It said can edit, so you've got the permission
Okay.
according to
Where's
this.
the headline then?
And I'm just sending
Yeah, I
you.
got it now.
So I just added Bill too.
So, okay.
So you should be getting, if you don't have a Google account, then it sends you a special link for editing. So you should get that in the email.
Okay.
And I think, Will, you need to be logged on with
Yeah,
Google Plus to.
I got it.
Okay, so maybe we can just go down the steps here and see what everybody thinks. Right, oh, you're editing that, okay. We have the team, get clear on what is doing, team of teams. So right now it's, what I'm hearing, Bill, is you'll kind of work on the periphery. You're going to focus more on the curriculum. So it's kind of Joan and Will and I, right, that are
Yeah,
kind of
and
focusing.
so I'm going to be doing, like I said, I was going to be putting together some kind of boilerplate to start working on reaching out to candidates. But I do want to kind of nail down exactly how this, have we kind of determined how this event would play out? Because I know we can't do like one-to-one type listening. Like how does this done? I'm just trying to play this event out in my head so I can properly describe it to people that I'm asking to participate in.
Well, you know, we're kind of trying to figure out how to do this. Initially, I thought 9 people was too many.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was hearing, well, if you don't do all 9, then some might be irritated that they were in one group or the other.
Yeah.
So, in seeing that they went for 3 hours, maybe we could do it for 3 hours. And they spent about at least half an hour with, you know, kind of speeches up front from the organizers at the front and the back. If we really cut that down, we could give the participants more time. So it would be similar to what they're doing here. Maybe have like, I'm kind of imagining like a horseshoe, you know, where they can speak to each other. They have a microphone. The speaker and the listener have microphones, and then they kind of do this reflection, you know, on the topic of how do we overcome divisions, and that can always be, you know, refined in our community and country and bring people together. They do the empathic listening just like we do in the empathy circle, and it just goes around for the time allotted, and we just be sure that they have to speak to someone, that they would probably be able to do 2 or 3 rounds, and we would just want to be sure that each person can, you know, has 2 or 3 turns. So they would have to select someone who, you know, hasn't spoken in that round.
And do we think that, because I know we were kind of throwing around the idea of maybe doing like you doing like a one-to-one with each of the participants beforehand, like maybe to try to get them more accustomed to the like empathic listening. I guess my concern would be like just make sure that participants, I guess, are playing by the rules.
So that the participants know what the ground rules are.
Right. Because it does, you know, take some kind of training and practice.
So what it could be is, if they want, maybe if we have a training video that shows how it's done.
Okay.
That we did it actually. Lou and Dave and I went to Congressman Mark DeSaulnier's office, and we did an empathy circle with 2 of his staff. And we were actually able to kind of keep it on track. At this event, we would have, I could do the moderation. So we'd explain how it works, maybe even give an example, with Lou or someone, he's pretty good at the reflection, give a sample of it. And then it just is a matter of keeping them on track, sort of, facilitating them. So that, I think, is not too hard. That's, and plus, if they had, the handout in advance, they could watch a video in advance. And if they want to do some practice in advance, we could, offer practice in advance too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be harder. That would be a little bit more challenging to get everyone to do. But I do think it's a good idea to have a training video, like as an optional, like, you can, more of a reference, you can check this out. So that sounds like a good idea.
That's where the curriculum would come in for that.
Okay.
And I think on that, I guess, Edwin, I'll be talking to you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock about the curriculum.
Right.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to leave right now, and then I'll get into that. I'll see you tomorrow at 10.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
So is he doing the curriculum? That's what I was asking before. For this?
It's a separate curriculum in general for the empathy, kind of the empathy, and for empathy 10.
Okay, but I thought maybe,
Yeah, if we do a video, put a focus on creating a little training video that could be used for what we're doing here.
You don't have one, a training video?
Not a step-by-step video with like samples of how there's actual circles that people can watch, but not a little intro, which I think we could do. A real step-by-step intro.
Well, that's another project.
Yeah, I think a short one could maybe. And Lou is going to work on that too. So.
Somebody mentioned earlier about the audience being able to participate somewhat in questions or reflection, or did I hear that?
Yeah, that was Bill.
Uh-huh.
So.
I think that always helps if the audience can get involved with it.
I was thinking about that when he said it. I kind of feel like that would be more helpful in a post, like say we were splitting this up into two different events, like what would be a pre-primary event and a post-primary event. I would think that would be even better for a post-primary event like this.
Right.
Because I would think that the audience would be far more familiar with them and their positions, either right after the primary. And they themselves may have their own particular issues with the person that won that they would want to challenge them on. Right.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's that can also imagine. Yeah, it's like the empathy circle ideally is 4 or 5 people. This is kind of stretching it. I'm not.
Right.
It's kind of complicated to have the audience speak and then have the person reflect back, and then it takes it. Then if they're just speaking and the audience doesn't reflect back, it takes it out. I mean, there's kind of different ways of structuring it. When we did it at Indivisible, we actually had the audience divide into circles of 4 people per group. And then we had 50 people doing their own individual empathy circles. But then they're not speaking with the candidate. So I'm not sure how to, how that.
I kind of envisioned it as like when he said it, when Bill said it, I kind of envisioned it like, your final 30 minutes or something like that of the event. An audience member can put up their hand and say, I'd like to ask a question or make a comment or whatever to this specific candidate about this specific issue. And then the candidate would then take part in active or empathetic listening from the audience member. But like, granted, I guess that could get messy. Like, you don't really know what you're gonna get with that.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, although almost all town halls have a Q&A, so I think that's a good point. And also, I think the candidates appreciate, some. I agree with what you said before about the primary versus after the primary, but the candidates will probably like to be able to answer some questions from the audience. Yeah.
Well, the town hall that the Mr. Phillips town hall, they did no Q&A. The only questions were from the moderators. So if you get the audience, you're going to get audience kind of pontification and that kind of stuff. And and what we're really trying to do here is foster, get people familiar with the empathy circle or empathic listening with the candidates. So I think it's getting the audience in on it's going to break the structure of the, and maybe doing it, in a post event in some, where the audience can do their own empathy circles, is, where we start a fishbowl empathy circle, for like an hour, and then the audience, and then here's an idea, is we start with a fishbowl of, like an hour or so with, well, that might not work yet, of the candidates, and then after an hour, one candidate goes in one group and in different groups, but that all gets kind of complicated.
I guess it's just the name town hall. You always picture a Q&A, but Mr. Phillips had one, and it was just a straight.
Yeah, and I do still kind of feel like, I'm sorry to cut you off, John, but I do kind of feel like these, where we are right now, as this being like a pre-primary event thing, like there's still an element of introducing candidates to the audience as well.
You broke up in your last two words. There's still something about the audience.
I was just saying that as far as a pre-primary event, there's still an element of the audience being introduced to the candidates.
Oh, right.
So even more to the point, they may not have a fully formed thoughts that they may want to express about the other candidates. Or
this is just basically to collect information then, right? Okay. Well, I agree. You want to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Too.
Also, if we're doing, if we're thinking about this in the context of like a pre-primary event, a post-primary event, the post-primary event will likely have less participants than a pre-primary event.
Yeah.
So that could provide more space as far as time goes to have more engagement with the audience.
Well, after we just have one candidate for for our party, right?
Yeah, I think that like a post-primary event though, you would have the winner, of course, but I think it's actually kind of powerful to also have their challengers, or at least maybe the top leading candidates or whatever that they were in most competition with, to help kind of. I think one of the comments that you had noticed was that someone had mentioned that he saw the benefit of this as a post-primary event. But yeah, I think it would be helpful if it was the winner of the primary along with some of the opponents. The
You're calling it a healing circle. Well, that's the thing. If you lose, will you want to come? Obviously, people that put themselves out there, they don't want to just run one time. So I guess they would still like to continue. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the easiest is just, you have a 3-hour event. There's a circle up there. The candidates, you do empathic listening with each other. It's recorded. We have a gateway question that they're working on, and then they keep dialoguing for the time allotted, and then you get to learn in more depth. The longer they do it, usually the deeper the conversation becomes.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I guess that's the only thing I'm trying to picture, because you have just how to deal with divisions, and 3 hours is a long time. I realize we have 9 people, but
If I don't know how the timing would work on this, but I would love to hear them talk about some type of campaign issue as well. And I don't know if maybe this has to be an either or, maybe it can be a both. Because I do think that the candidates should be able to speak on a specific issue that they probably have been speaking on in other realms as well. And it may even be helpful to what we're trying to do if we get them to take a empathetic approach to presenting an idea that they're typically presenting in a more adversarial way, in contrast with everyone else there.
I can show you how they dealt with it in this other forum.
Mm-hmm.
The format, just to give a bit of a context.
what was the topic on the other forum?
So the other one, they started with 2-minute opening statements for everyone. Right, so they got up
about whatever they wanted to talk about.
Yeah, it's exactly. They're kind of making their statement, and then they had a question that was only. They had 9 questions, and they each got 1 minute to answer it. So it was on air quality, rental housing, race-based affirmative action, farm workers, increasing housing, and I didn't get them all, but. And then they got 1 minute to answer, and then they got 1 minute closing statements. And then they started with almost like 20 minutes or so of the organizers talking about stuff. I don't know, and then they ended with a little bit of the organizers talking about.
Well, you do have to have the ground rules and everything with the group, yeah. That sounds more typical, though. And then, of course, what we're trying to avoid is having their regular spiel, where they just say,
right,
like sound bites. You want to get below that somehow. However, I think Will is right. I mean, if they don't have an opportunity to talk about that, I think it's not going to be as interesting to them. That's something that they definitely would want to have. So I think it's good to have the combination. It's just, how do you keep people from getting into that mode and getting away from actually reflection?
Have them get away from what I didn't. The last couple of words got.
Well, I mean, how do you? It's if you start talking. I guess if we do it later into it, and they already have gotten a rhythm about listening to each other, maybe that would work. If you start out talking about what they stand for.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah. Because that is kind of that's kind of addressing a concern that I was kind of wondering about of this playing out. I think that's a good idea, because like you're, I guess, priming them with a very a congenial topic of just bringing people together. And then you're challenging them in a way to engage in campaign rhetoric, but with each other and then empathizing with each other's alternate positions.
So that might modify it.
Yeah. Do you think that would that, because it just seems like well, I mean, 3 hours is a good amount of time.
Yeah.
I guess there seems like there should be enough time for that. I don't. What do you think, Edwin? I mean, have you done a 3-hour type event like this with this?
I've done.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
we've done workshops, but that's different.
we've done like family empathy circles that go like 3 hours, and you do like conflict mediations. They go. Usually, it's like 3 hours it takes to really get somewhere.
And that's going to be touching on a number of different topics within that 3 hours, I assume.
Right.
The thing is that you kind of leave it open. You set the initial topic, and then it kind of dialogues. It kind of goes deeper and deeper, and that's the question. Like, if we talk about unity, what would happen in 3 hours?
I don't think it's the same as talking about personal family things. That that one is go into all kinds of details, but when you're talking about coming out with specific ideas of how would you deal with unifying, people are going to know ahead of time about this, right? I mean, so that they'll give some thought to it, but it doesn't lend itself, I think, to as much jumping into all different aspects like the family discussion. But as you pointed out, we're probably going to need 20 minutes to, or introduction and go over the basics and your housekeeping things, that type of thing. And you need some kind of closure thing, which would probably be about that too. And then as Will pointed out, I don't know how far along into the empathy part, then we would give them time to talk about what they stand for. Maybe saying, could you talk about what you stand for and how it relates to unifying? So perhaps that would get them off of just having this little speech that they always say about what they stand for.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Well,
I was just going to say that I would like to hear them talk about a specific, like, all speak on a specific campaign issue, like a local issue, like housing or something like that. And the main reason why I'm saying this is because I actually think it would be great if we could find something that they can talk about in which they're speaking in a way in which they kind of disagree with each other on these issues. Because then it's an even greater challenge for them to empathize with the other person's point of view on a specific topic. And I think it would be helpful for the entire event if they were all talking about the same thing. So if we give them a specific issue, a specific local campaign issue like housing, then it keeps the kind of the theme is carried across over what everyone's talking about. So if we do like, what do you stand for? Then I feel like it would be very easy,
right?
For like kind of too easy for someone that's listening to just kind of regurgitate back what the other person's saying.
That's true.
As opposed to it actually coming across as like genuinely empathizing with their perspective.
Yeah, I think that's true. And since we all live in District 15, as far as an issue that really resonates, I think we should list some thoughts on it. I think, to me, I'd like to know more about environmentally what they think is important in our district, since we oil refinery and all
Right.
kinds of concerns now.
Yeah, I haven't done like maybe this question could be answered with just spending a little bit of time doing a survey of all of their websites. I've got all their websites pulled up on like all these tabs that I'm looking at here, but like maybe there's a specific issue that they've all spoken about.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, but I'll look into that to see if that's the case.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
Hmm?
Sorry.
The other one that
Go
you
ahead.
hear a lot about is the problem with mass incarceration. It's a hot issue, and people seem to come from different directions on that one.
I have a little concern here that you know, the other town hall was pretty much this kind of a thing. Like, here's the topic, you have a minute to talk about it. Everybody talked about it, and then they moved on to the next topic. So it was like 1 minute per one of these themes. And if you see the recording, because you know you can actually see the recording, you can see they just kind of give their spiel. And I guess I'm thinking that, you know, I'm not sure. I think that the unity topic is like a gateway into a deeper dialogue, and we don't know what will emerge. It's kind of like, it's like something will emerge in this dialogue, and that's kind of where the magic happens. Is, you know, people will talk about all kinds of things, and there's kind of like this deeper connection and emergence of something will happen. And so I'm kind of seeing, you know, imagining it just being that, you know, without, and, you know, one thing is we could do a trial run and we get a couple of people and we just actually do a test. And say, do a test of, here's the thing, we do go for an hour, 2 hours, and actually see like what kind of happens in this, you know, because I have some concern that if we're just jumping, have these different topics, you know, they weren't all that far different. Like they asked about, you know, what do you think? They're, if you see what they were actually doing, they had a lot of similarities, you know, in terms of what they were saying,
Well,
you know, so.
Okay. Well, what is
So you I'm sorry, go ahead.
what is your thought about asking the candidates to each speak on, wait a minute, this is different than what I said before, I think. Each on a issue of great importance to them, one of their most important issues. What is that? Do you feel like that would be their spiel then?
Yeah, like what is,
Yeah.
oh, Will, I didn't want to interrupt you. You were up next, so did you have something?
Yeah, well, I was just, I think that would kind of invite a stock spiel that they've kind of
Okay.
probably given a number of other events by then.
Well, I agree with Will, Edwin, as far as I think the candidates will be happy to talk about, you know, something other than bringing unity together, since it's 3 hours, that they get a chance to say something. And I guess the more we talk about it, it sounds like everybody's going to select one topic and have each give their perspective on it. And it doesn't have to go on for hours and hours or anything. We have 9 people.
Yeah, well, what if we did just like the other group did? They get a minute or two just to give their opening statement about themselves. Because they if you see their existing statements, they kind of say what's really important to them. And
yeah, but Will was just saying he feels like that's where you get the speed.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm just trying to get this to go so that we're presenting something that's different than just them sitting down and collectively, giving their campaign spiel to an audience. I don't think. I mean, I wouldn't want to like provide some like list of choices like this. I mean, maybe I know I kept throwing around housing, but maybe that's not it. Maybe it's something else, or maybe there's some generalized topic that we can get them to speak on. But I do think it's important to try to get them to stay away from any spiel, and I do think like any opening or closing statement would kind of invite that. I am curious. I mean, I am curious to know where a conversation would go in which you're asking them to discuss unity. I just because they're not like drastically on the other side of the political spectrum, I just don't see the conversation, I guess, being that lively. Like I kind of feel like there would be a lot of overlap in some of the things they were saying. And maybe that would be the case if we were to pick a specific topic too. Like it would be great if there was a topic that we could think of with which they all have very different point of views on.
It's true. It's true that they are very similar, probably, Democrats, and it's not like talking to a Republican and Democrat about unity. That's what I was wondering, how creative, they're going to have time to think about this ahead of time, so you can see what kind of creativity they bring into it. But yeah, that is a concern.
But I do think it is important to lead in with the unity conversation, as you had mentioned earlier, Joan, that would be kind of like a I guess and maybe it was you that said Edwin, that like that in itself is like an in-person, like before you get into the other stuff, primer to kind of set the tone for the event.
Right. You certainly wouldn't want to do the topic, whatever they're interested in first, and then try to get that would be a disaster, I think. Yeah.
Well, I think what I'm hearing here is the concern is that just talking about unity may not be that interesting of a conversation.
It might not be.
And but we don't know. It's like we're not really clear. Because when we did the conversation with Mark DeSaulnier's staff, the topic was we want to see if we can get Mark DeSaulnier to take part in an empathy circle with us. So we were kind of pushing for that, and his staff was trying to explain the difficulties they have dealing with scheduling and things changing, and then we got into the topic of. Dave mentioned the topic of that we would like DeSaulnier to actually be able to have an empathy circle with other Democrats or Republicans to overcome the divisions. And they really got that. Like one of the people really, there was a real resonance. So it was like a multi-dimensional, quality, that it did get deeper and deeper as we were doing this.
Yeah,
so
and I agree with. I think you're correct that we're, I guess, both saying it may not be the most interesting conversation, but I think we're also saying that we do still see it as important, though, to lead with it.
Right.
So I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying it should not be part of this. I think it's important to be part of it.
Okay, so it's important to lead with the unity. Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Edwin, when you met with Lou and Dave and yourself, so you have 3 empathy gurus sitting there that are very tuned in to, how to handle these. I can see where you might go into deeper areas than we've got 9 people. This is going to be their first experience, and they have this question to look at. Yeah, I agree with Will. I am a little concerned. I'm wondering, does it have to be 3 hours?
No, we could do it like 2.5, or, you know, it could be a 2-hour thing. We have half an hour of setup. Doesn't have to be that long. We don't, I'm just saying that they went for
Right.
3 hours, so it is a possibility, but we don't have to go that. It could be, you
And
know,
also people in the audience, I mean, on one topic, even though it's an interesting one, maybe a couple hours is enough. And the setup doesn't have to be 20 minutes. It could be 10 minutes and 10 minutes at the end. You don't need to go into huge
yeah.
detail.
I thought they went too long for their setup. It was a lot like kind of promoting themselves.
And that way, people, I mean, just in case it doesn't seem to be fascinating, then as Will said, then go into, you seem reluctant to have them talk about some, you know, a topic and all of them respond on it. I think that is something they'd like to do, and it's not going to be the centerpiece because the unity part is the centerpiece. Maybe there'd be a way to bring it back to unity at the end somehow, so that.
Well, the thing is there's something about each person having about at least 3 turns to say something. Because when you first say something, you get a reflection, and then you hear everyone else, and you're kind of like chomping at the bits to, you know, respond to all the different things people have said. And then it comes back to your turn, and then you want another turn. So it's like 3 turns. So we need to kind of, let's see, if we have 3 minutes times 9 equals, that's 27 minutes right there.
Right, and 3 times, that's just an hour.
No, that's an hour and a half.
I'm sorry. Yep. An hour and a half plus a little lead in, a little lead out, and then a little time for an issue. And now, how much time would that be for each person, Will?
Well, you know, if we were to do like 2 minutes on each issue, I mean on an issue per person, then we can maybe do 2 rounds. I don't know if, I mean, so what were we looking at then? So 2 rounds, that's
an hour.
Yeah.
2 times 9, no. 2 minutes, 18 and 18. I'm sorry. That's yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Is that enough time to really get something out, you think, 2 minutes, Edwin?
That's getting kind of short. I like about 5 minutes, but I think 3 is doable. You know what I'm thinking is, what if we do a trial run next time, like
How do you do
or
that?
schedule that we get a couple more people and then actually do the topic of.
Oh, you mean like we just get 9 people to try this out?
Yeah, or as many as we can, and actually try out how does it actually, what does it actually feel like doing such a big group? And, you know, so we get more of a sense of testing it.
Yeah, I think we should try to do that. Yeah, so if we did 3 minutes, 3 rounds on the first, on unity, and then 3 minutes, 2 rounds on a campaign issue, that would be 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were to do a trial run, maybe we would just do one of those sets. So like a group of somewhere close to 9 people, just doing either 2 or 3 rounds of the 3 minutes.
Of the unity.
Yeah.
Yes, so I put the, so 2 minutes times 9 is 18, 3 times 9 is 27, 4 times 9 is 39. just in terms of time. I'm putting that into our Google Doc just so we have the
Yeah.
potential.
I think I guess it's easy to think about it in the terms of the 3-minute blocks. Because then you could just kind of run it up to 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's an even block of time,
Yeah.
easier time frame. Yeah. 3 minutes is actually what we did with the psalm years, and it did seem to work. It seemed like you could get.
So 3 minutes for 9, 27, and 27. So that we decided that would be like an hour for the unity. Okay.
That would be for the campaign issue, but before that it would be 3, because you said 3 rounds was what you were thinking, Edwin.
Yeah.
So then you would do 3 minutes, 3 rounds for the unity, and then 2 minutes, 3 minutes, two rounds for the campaign issue. So that would be an hour and a half on unity, and then an hour on some campaign issue.
And then with setup and closure, then we're almost back at 3 hours then, I guess.
Yeah. I would be kind of curious to know what a 2-minute block would be like.
Well, we could test, and we could actually test it right now. What's the topic?
Well, if we were going on housing, let's see. I'm gonna set a timer here. Okay. Let's see. 2 minutes.
3 minutes feels like.
Yeah, I want to see what this is like here.
I got a timer here too if you're.
Okay.
Okay, do you want to start? Just select one of us. And so the topic is the high costs of rent, or no, it's just the housing crisis in the area. What are you going to do about it?
Okay. All right. I'd like to do it with you, Edwin.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm doing this from a candidate's perspective. So I assume that there would be some proposals that particular individual has already made, and try to personify it in some way. So I look around and I hear many stories from many different friends and family members, and my own personal experience is that it is unnecessarily difficult to find affordable housing in the East Bay, in our district.
So what I'm hearing is from your friends and family and people that you know that you're just hearing this, that there's this difficulty in finding housing here in the East Bay.
Right, and so if it's not it's a premise that you don't necessarily have to. I mean, it's difficult to ignore. You can't just. This is not just the news reports. We're all impacted by it in many profound ways. I believe that there are steps that can be taken from within the state legislature that can make housing more affordable in general throughout the district.
Okay, so what I'm hearing there is that this is not an abstract thing that's out there. It's a real issue with people, and you feel that there's steps that the legislature could do to address this, and that's your time. That was 1:55. Pretty short.
Yeah,
really short. You couldn't hardly get much out with that.
Yeah, I think that's too short. I don't. I mean, granted, I'm sure that a candidate will be more practiced on speaking on the specific issue.
Yeah, you spend about 20 seconds kind of guessing what the candidate, but still, it's still
It's
you
still
know,
too
that
short.
it's still too short. They're not going to be able to express much with
So,
that.
so how much time? 3 minutes? Do you think what 3
Well,
minutes?
I
shall
think
we-
that's the minimum, bare
Okay,
minimum.
then I'll speak to Joan. Then let's do a test.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I feel that we need to. I would support adding renters control, supporting more rent control in the area. The housing prices is really affecting so many people. I think we're at the point that we need to have rent control, and I will advocate for that. Creating a bill that allows for renter control.
So because it impacts so many people in the Bay Area, your proposal is that there be some bill that would address rent control.
That is to allow rent control. Not every city. We're looking at a lot of different cities here, and they all have their own rules.
Mhm.
And I would make sure that we have it allowed that the cities can set their own rules for rent control, and that I would would advocate for that the cities can that it would be allowable to have rent control ordinances.
Okay, so your feeling is that it should be individual by city, and that each city should be able to set their own rent control.
Well, that's the way it actually is right now. We have to deal with the reality that, Berkeley has one set of rules, El Cerrito has one, so every city sets its own local ordinances. But I want to be sure that they can continue to set those local ordinances, and that the state does not inhibit that the cities can set those ordinances. Because I know that there's people that want all those ordinances abolished, that there can be no rent control, and I feel that we do need some form of rent control allowed if the cities want it.
Okay, so I'm hearing you say that definitely this is already happening. Each city has their own rules, and that should continue. And it shouldn't be a state decision. It should be a local decision
Yep,
to
exactly.
see.
And we need to keep, kind of a diversity of incomes here. We don't want it just all to be gentrified, and it's just the tech workers to push everybody else out, because they have pretty high income, and so we need to really support diverse income levels. We need the firefighters, the nurses, the teachers need that support, etc. And that's my if you just reflect that, then that was 3 minutes.
Okay. And so you feel like the other issue here is diversity of income, and it can't be the tax workers setting the norm, that everybody has to be considered, nurses and teachers, etc.
And that was actually 2 minutes and 3 minutes and 25 seconds. So we have to find a way of being, very clear on I think we would need a clock up front so that they can kind of gauge the times. That they'll need to start winding down, because they might speak to the last minute, and they might need a reflection. So that's something about, they were very clear on the time limits.
Right.
So that was so anyway, but that was a little bit better. That was like 3 minutes seems to be about the minimum, really.
Right. That felt a lot longer, actually.
That 1 minute makes a real difference. But I did go, 30 seconds over too. So.
Right. I think if it were longer, that would be too long. So I think 3 minutes seems good.
I don't know, maybe even 4, but I think it's something we need to.
I think that's a bit too long. Yeah.
You think so?
I think 3 minutes is a good minimum, at least.
Yeah.
We're talking about an event that has 9 people. I'm still looking at this in the concept of, like, this is still a scaled up version.
Yeah.
If this was being reproduced around the country in different pre-primary events, it may not always be 9 candidates. It may be 5 candidates. So that would allow for a 4-minute or 5-minute block instead. But I think we definitely confirmed that 3 is the bare minimum, at least.
Yeah, I think so. That was pretty good learning.
It is different to try it out.
Yeah.
The other thing is, in terms, I think it might be hard to shift topics because, people will be working, and that's something maybe we could schedule a trial run and even get a feel for you're doing a couple rounds, getting deeper and deeper into a topic, and then you shift to a whole different topic. I just wonder how that will work, especially we know that we can't do 2 minutes, that we're going to have to, whatever the topic is, it's got to be 3 minutes. So
well, if we do a trial run with just a few people, where we do it with 3 rounds, 3 minutes on unity, and then do 2 rounds, 3 minutes on some other topic, and we tell everybody what the topic is beforehand so they have kind of time to mentally prepare. Maybe that would be a way for us to reproduce the event, but like in a small scale. And because I mean, that could be a potential issue. It could throw it off.
Yeah.
Do you think? I mean, getting people. As far as getting people, do you think that the empathy group from Wednesday, that Dave, and Lou, and Bill could join in on this?
Yeah, I think so. I can ask tomorrow.
Yeah, we need 9 people, so whoever we can.
Yeah.
Well, to test the concern that Edwin just raised, you wouldn't need the 9 people. Because you're just trying to figure out if it would be like an awkward segue into a different topic, I guess, right?
Well, we need a couple of things. Is what is the experience of 9 people, as well as what is it switching between topics? It might be just one topic and just a shorter event too. Might be another option. So it's kind of trying to be open about it. It's going to be more like what's the felt experience? Like what does it feel? So the more we can do to kind of practice, the more experience we get in terms of what is the, what's the felt experience. Because we experienced 2 minutes, we could all tell that was just too short.
Yeah. Well, if who else is in your group besides Dave, Lou, and Bill?
Sometimes Bob comes. Then there's John Kenyon.
But he doesn't live. Oh, well, I guess we can do it online, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
John Kenyon is actually in San Pablo, I think, and but Bob is in LA. Maybe we could actually test it at the next, on the 20th. We could have a meeting, and it's next Wednesday. Then we could do it at the time when our regular empathy team meets, and then kind of use that time to practice.
What is the date of next Wednesday?
It's the 20th.
I'll take a look. I was just calculating, so that would be 8 people, and we need 1 more if we want to do 9.
This would be on the 20th.
Yeah. Would that work?
Let me look at my calendar.
It's just, getting so many people together is hard. And we already have that existing meeting that people hopefully have on their schedule. So, but then, Dave, I think, might be leaving on the 18th, so he might not be able to come.
Right. It's hard right around a holiday. You're talking right before Christmas, so.
Well, what if we just did as many as we could to get the ball rolling?
This would be an online thing, another Zoom meeting?
Yeah.
Is it going to intrude on, because this is, that meeting is more focused on the curriculum, or is this?
It would be, we could use the first hour or so. We usually go for an hour and a half. We just had 30 minutes to run over curriculum and other projects we're doing.
Because I'm available if we do something on the 20th.
Okay, Joan.
Would we have it in lieu of this meeting? We wouldn't have both of them back to back, right?
Well, we could check in at least a little bit on the 19th just to see if there's anything new, or we could check. We could decide if there is, coming up to the holidays, things might get a little slow, but we could just it would be good to report in, like, anything that has come up between now and then, just to keep the momentum going.
Yeah.
Have a short meeting, at least half an hour or so, and.
Yep.
Does that work?
Oh, wait a minute. Julie is still part of the group too.
Oh yeah, she would be back too, hopefully by then.
Okay, but then we don't know if Wednesday would work for her, but we could check.
Okay, because then we would just test out the topic and then go for a round or two, and then kind of maybe shift and then see what the shift feels like.
Right, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, yeah.
Or good to practice.
Okay.
There won't be any surprises there always can be surprises, but hopefully you've got a sense of how it's going to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, then I think we've got a plan, and we've gone for about an hour and 45 minutes. Is there any other topics then?
No, this is pretty much covering everything that I wanted to talk about with this.
Okay, cool.
I think, yeah, because we talked about other people's comments that you raised as well. So, yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so should we do just a little check out, like how was the meeting for everyone? And
productive.
I didn't hear what Will was saying.
He's saying productive. He felt that everything was covered that he wanted to have covered.
Okay, great.
I mean, at least from my end, because I just wanted to go over the things that we talked about before I start reaching out to people. And, and that was also a good recommendation on Joan's part for the venue.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll look into that and see if that'll work for us.
There is a group that teaches an empathy class at Berkeley that I'd mentioned, and I had mentioned it to them about this project, and they were kind of interested, maybe in the new year, and maybe even there's maybe a space at UC Berkeley for doing this. I don't know, but so there's, we just need to kind of check the different possibilities, and So I also feel pretty good that I feel we got a foundation, a framework, and we can just keep plugging, stuff into that framework now. So, and I'm just excited to be working with both of you and appreciate your enthusiasm and energy and creativity.
Cool.
Good.
And Joan?
Yeah, I was feeling pretty raunchy at the beginning with feeling sorry for myself and everything, but kept me engaged the whole time. And yeah, I felt like we covered, it was organized, we covered a lot of information, and I feel like we're going in a good direction.
Okay, yay, team. Okay, then I'll stop the recording.